Hi folks, thanks for tuning in. This is the Carnivore Curmudgeon with a reminder that I am an actual carnivore, but not an actual curmudgeon mostly. And if you're not familiar with my story, I have had success with the carnivore diet in the past, fell off the wagon as it were, and decided it was time to restart and to reboot and to get back on track with the proper way of eating, which has absolutely helped me with my weight, with my blood sugar, with my blood pressure, and a number of other health issues that I just did not need to have. And this video is a review of my final week of the initial 4-week challenge. And I started that final week with a weigh-in of 235 pounds even. And if you watched my week 3 video, you may have caught a mistake that I made by putting it down as day 15 when it was actually day 21. But hang in there until the end of this video to see what the end result of this 4 weeks was for my weight. And week 4 was actually Thanksgiving week. And I started off day 22, a Tuesday, with breakfast at my desk, or deskfast as I've come to call it, with 3 eggs, a meatloaf I made with ground pork, ground beef, and ground venison liver, and a little bit of additional beef fat. Then that evening, I had a delicious lamb chop with shrimp with brown butter on top and just a little bit of additional crisped up beef fat. But let me just say, if you've never tried shrimp with brown butter and you're a shrimp fan, do yourself a favor and make this dish. Now on day 23, the day before Thanksgiving, I had a simple breakfast that morning of some leftover sausage and some hard-boiled eggs with butter. And then in the afternoon, because I was headed out for an afternoon of hunting, I just went ahead and took some what they called country-style beef pork ribs. I got a feeling it was leftover chuck steak. But anyway, I took these and I just put them in the sous vide and walked away so that I could not have to worry about what was happening for the evening meal. And when I got back home, I just pulled them out of the sous vide bath and put them on a cookie tray and crisped them up in the oven for a nice brown bark. So that evening I had some eggs, some leftover pork meatballs, and those pretty good okay country style beef ribs with some brown butter on top. So that brings us round to Thursday, Thanksgiving Day 2022, and knowing myself, I decided I needed to eat a good breakfast to not set myself up for overeating a Thanksgiving meal. So that meant some easy scrambled eggs, a small pile of bacon, and some leftover meatloaf that I had made earlier in the week. And because I am the cook in our house, I did make a bunch of the traditional stuff for family that was in to share Thanksgiving with us. I made potatoes and I made rolls and green beans and those kinds of things, but I did not eat any of that. My Thanksgiving meal was some delicious warmed up beef fat, a leftover sirloin steak, and some turkey with brown butter and some turkey skin. And I did not miss all the other stuff, especially in regard to the way I felt later that day and the next day. And all of it was tasty and very satisfying. But don't take my word for it. Let's go to our intrepid reporter on the street, senior scrap specialist, Digby O'Dog. Dig, how was it?
Good.
And there you have it, a very specialized and unbiased opinion. So the day after Thanksgiving, I did not wake up with a food hangover. I actually woke up hungry and enjoyed a breakfast frittata that I made with cheese, ground beef, and bacon. Another slice of that almost gone meatloaf I made, and some cottage cheese. I have a separate video on how I make this frittata if you care to check that out. Now we had fewer people than we expected sticking around on Friday after Thanksgiving due to some scheduling changes, and so that left me with my plan for an 8-pound standing rib roast, all to my wife and to myself. And being the committed meat eater that I am, well, I had to step up. I made the rib roast, and we have been eating the rib roast for several days with no complaints. That night, it was rib roast with a little bit of extra fat cap from my wife's steak that night. and it did not disappoint. And I spent a good portion of the afternoon on Friday grinding up some venison and adding some pork fat, which on day 26, Saturday morning, I utilized to make some venison breakfast sausages. And they were an excellent part of a breakfast that morning for our family. Some scrambled eggs, some bacon, and that venison sausage rounded it out. Then that night, you guessed it, leftover prime rib, a little bit of that frittata still hanging around, and one of the ribs left over from that prime rib roast. Now, day 27 was a wonderful, lazy Sunday morning. So I took my time and did something a little special that we don't indulge in very often, but I made a charcuterie board. It was simple, just some pancetta, 2 different kinds of salami, several different kinds of cheese. You'll see the beef fat there in the middle. That was just for me. And you'll also notice some olives and some mustard, which much as I would have loved to have gotten into, I did stay away from. I picked at the meat and the cheese and had a nice size slice of that frittata for breakfast, and it hit the spot. That evening we definitely did simple. I had a leftover pork chop, I had a leftover lamb chop, and then a couple of eggs, and that was all that I needed for that evening. Oh, and there's a little brown butter on that lamb chop. And now we come to day 28, and really that's the final day because it's a full 4 weeks, even though there are 2 days left in the month. And I started that last day at my desk with some leftover prime rib, some beef fat, and 2 hard-boiled eggs. And I finished out the 4 weeks with simple but abundant. A couple of hard-boiled eggs, 2 cheeseburgers, a small pork chop, some smoked sausage, and some sardines. It was almost like a charcuterie plate, but not quite. So where did I end up on this 4-week adventure? Well, my blood pressure today was 124/78. My blood glucose or blood sugar was 90 this afternoon. But I know most of you are wondering, where did I end up on the scales? Well, as a reminder, I started day 1 at 249.8, not 250. And at the end of the challenge, 233.4 for a weight loss over 4 weeks of 16.4 pounds. And I am certainly not disappointed. And in fact, I'm very encouraged more than anything because I feel terrific. And I know some people are wondering, what did I do besides the diet to facilitate the weight loss? And the answer is nothing. I didn't do any exercise for this 4 weeks other than normal life living. And that was absolutely intentional from the beginning. So the question is, where do I go from here? What do I do next? Well, sort of the answer is nothing. I just keep doing what I've been doing. It's working for me. I feel good. The weight loss will continue as I continue to adhere to what I know is the best food for me. I certainly plan on checking in at least once a week on this channel, sharing some things that I've been doing, things that I've been eating. I will be adding some purposeful exercise in the coming month as well. And I hope you'll come back. I've really appreciated the support and the replies and the comments that you've shared on these different videos. I think you'll find I've got some interesting things coming up that are interesting with regard to a healthy lifestyle in addition to a carnivore way of eating, because it's not just about food, although that's hard to admit. Please check back often, see what's going on this channel, and please keep those comments, replies, and support coming. If you have something that you can share, please put it in the comment section. It may help somebody else. This is your carnivore curmudgeon saying, keep carnivore, but don't be a curmudgeon mostly.